11 fun Terminator ripoffs best for your drunken enjoyment. Few science fiction movies have been as influential and popular as the first two Terminator movies. With the expertise of James Cameron in charge of things and the muscle-wielding Arnold Schwarzenegger, the movie had a great storyline that immediately caught on with the audiences. Both Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 had fascinating plots and did raging business at the box office. Like most success formulas, this too was subject to immediate duplication. Many others thought of basking in the success of the idea behind Terminator, and then we had a series of Terminator ripoffs. The problem was that there was no James Cameron to oversee these movies, and most of them had ridiculous scripts. These movies were all about the robot fights, gun blazing, nudity, and the story was the last thing that the makers had in mind. In this video, we will explore some of these Terminator ripoffs. Make no mistake, these are no classics, but we must add that these do provide a generous dose of entertainment. After all, you do need something for the drunken evenings, don't you? Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Class of 1999. 1990. What do you think about cyborg teachers conducting classes? Well, this movie takes you through such a premise where three former military cyborgs are appointed as undercover teachers to a school. Controlling the gang-plagued high school was important and the students were getting out of hand. This called for special measures and hence the robot teachers. But what happens when some students get a whiff of the plan? Watch the movie to find out. When we say that most Terminator ripoffs are trash, we do not imply Class of 1999. While this is no hidden gem, it does provide some lighthearted entertainment with its over-the-top cheesy plotline. Of course, the critics ripped it apart, but the movie actually finds success through its biggest weakness: the direction. The soppy making actually becomes funny to watch for the viewer. The special effects are well conceived, and the action-packed scenes will be worth the watch. The cast for this film is remarkable, with the likes of Stacy Keach, Malcolm McDowell, John P. Ryan, and Bradley Gregg putting up a good show. Watch this movie for the giggles and you will not be disappointed. Cyborg Cop, 1993. An ex-DEA agent, Jack, receives news of his brother being ambushed on the island of St. Keith. When he goes there, he realizes that the drug runner that he was after had transformed his brother into a killer cyborg. The robot-killing machine now seeks to cause destruction and intends to murder the president. Can Jack stop him from causing such mayhem? Some of the scenes in the movie end so abruptly that you will start wondering if the director loves screaming "cut" randomly. The editing is terrible and the sloppy making actually makes Cyborg Cop enjoyable. The stunt double is obvious in some scenes for David Bradley. There are numerous unintentionally funny moments that will have you laughing your heart out. There are the usual action sequences with helicopters blowing things up. There is the customary sex scene, and you will probably enjoy some decent acting performances by the likes of David Bradley, Todd Jensen, and especially John Rhys Davies, who plays the bad guy. You could try it out, but only if you have the stomach for cheesy films.
Watch out!
Hands of Steel, 1986. When the director of Hands of Steel states that Terminator was his inspiration, he surely means it. The story begins with a cyborg being programmed to kill an ecologist who holds the fate of mankind. He cannot complete the mission because his human heart takes over and he takes shelter in Arizona, where a woman who runs a motel seems to like him, but his troubles are far from over because the people who sent him are in pursuit. He has to face his opponents as he makes the choice between humanity and his robotic nature. The script for this movie was probably written by a half-wit who put in the corniest lines ever. The over-the-top fight scenes are as unrealistic as it gets, with relentless shooting and helicopters that seem to have no effect of the flurry of bullets that hit it. As for the cast, Daniel Green is physically perfect for the role, and the gorgeous Janet Agron is a delight to watch on screen. As for the fun part, the movie is loaded with violence, future stuff, and strippers. Oh yeah. Watch out for the many arm wrestling duels. This is the kind of movie you watch with friends over some beers, and you can have an entertaining evening at hand. The Vindicator, 1986. A scientist working for a secret company operation is made the guinea pig for a dangerous experiment. It is a software that provokes extreme violence when attacked, and unknowingly, he submits to the plot of turning him into a robotic killer. Thus begins a string of action sequences where he destroys anything that attacks him. From motorcycle gangs to hired killers, he takes on everyone that comes in his way. The movie is somewhat of a cross between Terminator and RoboCop. David McElrath, Maury Chaykin, Pam Grier, Richard Cox, and the other members of the cast make sure that the acting performances are decent for the film. Where the movie struggles is the storyline that has too many loopholes. The production team struggles with the low budget, and it shows in some of the scenes. The design of the cyborg could have been much better, and the special effects are far from impressive. The key to watching this movie is to keep your expectations low and enjoy this goofy attempt. Death Machine, 1994. Death Machine tells the story of an experiment gone wrong, where an attempt to create a great fighting machine results in the deaths of innocent people. As a result, the mind behind the experiment, Jack, is fired by Kale. But Jack is not one to give up so easily and is hell-bent on revenge. He sends out the killing machine named War Beast to assassinate Kale. All who come to save her will also meet the same fate. Can Kale survive the threat? The plot for the movie might be a little far-fetched, but the director does a good job in constructing a sense of fear in the audience. The well-designed robot and the special effects are pretty good for the meager budget of the film. A funny thing noticeable in Death Machine is how the actors are named after famous horror/action directors like Sammy Raimi, John Carpenter, and Scott Ridley. There are moments in this movie that evoke laughter, and there is no abundance of gore. Brad Dourif is impressive as the psychotic villain, Jack Dante, who is an absolute maniac. Ellie Puget, John Sherian, and William Hootkins form a powerful cast that ensures sound acting performances. You might be pleasantly surprised by this low-budget effort and making a thoughtful sci-fi movie. Eve of Destruction, 1991. A robotic nuclear bomb that walks and talks and is all set to explode. Sounds intriguing? Well, then you just might be attracted to the premise of Eve of Destruction. A scientist creates a military robot that looks exactly like her. Her weapons include a nuclear bomb, as well as when she is lost in the city, it is up to the maker to find and disarm her evil robotic clone. She hires a terrorist hunter to help her with the task. They must find her before it's too late. The half-baked script for this movie is a far cry from the likes of Terminator, which inspired this in the first place. Despite the presence of Gregory Hines in the ranks, the acting performance is not much to talk about. Renee Sutin-Dijic is a sight for sore eyes, but her acting is no prize catch either. With the shortcomings, the film scores high on nudity and ample boob shots to please the audience. The movie is predictable and rather silly attempt, but you can always watch it as a guilty pleasure. Alienator, 1990. An alien convict manages to escape and takes shelter in the woods of America. Female cyborg hunter, the Alienator, is assigned to hunt him down. In the meantime, the convict makes contact with some hapless earthlings, including a forest ranger. Soon, Alienator arrives with her laser weapon that makes the victims disappear. No points for guessing that a rough battle ensues, with all guns blazing. The movie is so awful that you will be left to wonder if it was intentionally done so. The dreadful special effects, the laughable acting, and the non-existent plot add up to form this terrible effort. There is no continuity or character development, and things just randomly happen. Sometimes the worst of movies have the ability to evoke laughter because you are amused at the sheer stupidity. Alienator falls in that category, and if you have a knack of enjoying a disastrous movie once in a while, maybe this film can interest you. We must warn you that you will lose some brain cells in the process. Shadowchaser, 1992. The story of Shadowchaser is set in the future. Some terrorists take over a hospital where the president's daughter is present and take her hostage. The terrorists have an indestructible android leader, and thus the rescue operation requires expertise. The police department seeks out the man who designed the building, but he is in jail. The futuristic jail involves being frozen solid for the term of the sentence. As they thaw him out, accidentally a football player is thawed and helps the police to rescue the hostages. The movie is more like a version of Die Hard with robots involved. It is much better than most perceive it to be. The state-of-the-art special effects, surreal environments used, and complex characters ensure that the film is beyond the mindless action flick. The mean machine gunfight through the hospital is entertaining and will please the action freaks. The plot might not be original, but it does pack quite a punch with the execution. As a synthesis of Terminator and Die Hard, the movie is better than you would expect.
Wow, scratch one terrorist.
Programmed to Kill, 1987. Programmed to Kill is a classic example of how deriving from the Terminator plot is not the easiest to implement. The plot revolves around a dreaded female terrorist from the Middle East who is turned into a cyborg that is supposed to turn on her own kind. But once she is let loose, she soon turns against the makers who turned her into a cyborg. It is now up to Eric, who leads a team of mercenaries to stop this deadly cyborg. As you have already realized, the plot takes a leaf out of movies like Universal Soldier and Terminator. The terrorist, played by Sundal Bergman, is well portrayed, although she hardly has a line to speak. Robert Ginty, as the savior, also manages to deliver the goods. The movie falters with special effects, and many of the action scenes are shot in near darkness. Watch out for the power-packed climax with all the explosions and guns blazing.
Bring this gun.
American Cyborg Steel Warrior, 1993. A killing machine is after a woman who manages to give birth in a post-apocalyptic world. It is a world that has been taken over by artificial intelligence after a nuclear war left the people sterile. The woman tries to shield her child as she crosses a dangerous city to reach a ship. A man tries to help her in this situation from the murderous robot, but what chance do they have against an immortal machine? If there is one good thing about this movie, it is the relentless action scenes. With numerous shootouts and chases, the audience is sure to be entertained by the efforts. The special effects, considering the low budget, is not disappointing. The set designed to create the post-apocalyptic world is praiseworthy, but don't start looking for a story, because there is none. The cyborg, played by John St. Ryan, is rather intimidating, and when he hands out some gory deaths, it is sure to send a shiver down your spine. The film's not as bad as you would imagine, and you could expect some mindless entertainment as you check this out. Lady Terminator, 1989. The Indonesian flick had the most outrageous plot you could think of. It all starts with an anthropologist who goes for a swim in the ocean. She is possessed by the spirit of some ancient evil queen, and once she emerges out of the water, it is absolute mayhem. The queen seeks revenge on those who had wronged her, and her murderous rampage threatens the entire city. Oh, and just so we don't forget to add, she must also experience the pleasures of being with a man after such a long time. If you get the DVD release, then you can actually watch the alternate versions of 3 scenes in the film. The script is lousy, the direction rather childish, and the acting is below par. Their attempt to mimic the classic Terminator plotline falls flat on its face. While the movie is absolutely bizarre and incompetent, it does score high in terms of the laughs that it generates with a messy attempt. There is some gratuitous nudity, which is probably the saving grace for the failed attempt. The car chases, helicopters, mindless action, and the sensuous Barbara Ann Constable will make it worth the watch.